Hey everyone, for this tutorial I'll be showing you how to make this emotional support beer mug. As you know, Father's Day is coming, so this will make a great simple little gift for him. These are the materials that you will need. So what I used was a 8-ply lover's yarn, and this is in weight 5 in yellow. You will need chenille fluffy white yarn. This is in weight 3. But if you're a complete beginner, I would recommend you not to use fluffy yarn because it's difficult to see the stitches. So as an alternative, you can use 8-ply lover's yarn in white. You need some black scrap yarn for the mouth, a pair of 6mm eyes, safety eyes. You need a handful of polyfiber filling. So it's definitely less than 5 grams if you need to know the weight. I used a 4.5mm hook, pair of yarn scissors, and your yarn needle. For your card, you can cut about 2 to 3 cm and then just write your message on it. And to glue it on, I used a glue gun, but if you don't have one, you can just use super glue. For round 1, you'll need to do 6 single crochets into a magic ring. If you're unsure of how to do this, if you're a complete beginner, you can head on to my other tutorial, How to Crochet for Complete Beginners, where I explain how to do a single crochet coaster in a much greater detail. You start with a chain 1 so that it's easier to close your magic ring later on. And you're going to pull the tail end of your magic ring to close the hole in the middle. For round 2, we'll be doing 6 increases. So if you need, you can use a stitch marker to indicate the last stitch of the round that you just did and close it. But if you don't have a stitch marker, you can just use the tail, which is what I normally do, and put it in between just after the last stitch of your round. Alright, so for round 2, we'll be doing 6 increases. So that's 2 single crochets into each stitch. 1, 2. And there's your round 2. You should have 12 stitches at the end of round 2. And since if you use the yarn like me, you can see that this is where you should be stopping. So in between these 2 stitches, right? So it means that this is the first stitch of the round and this is the last stitch of the round. So your last stitch should be on top of the last stitch of the previous round. Okay, now let's begin round 3, which is single crochet increase times 6. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in the first stitch and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. 1 and 2. And then we'll repeat this pattern for the rest of the round. Single crochet and an increase. At the end of round 3, you should have 18 stitches. And you can remove that stitch marker or your yarn if you'd like. And just in case there are those of you who need a stitch marker, I normally put it into the front loop only. And click. Yep. So this is for those of you who are using a stitch marker, so you know where to clip it. Alright. Let's go on to round 4. So for round 4, we'll just be doing 18 single crochets around, but instead of going into the back loop only, we're going to go in between the stitches. So you go down into the first stitch and you go up into the second stitch. And I do this because it gives a more crisp edge. So you can see here, it is more like crisp, like more sharp, so to say. instead of like if you go into the back loop only, it will look a bit more round than you want it to be. But if it's easier for you to do back loop only, you can go ahead and do that. All right, so yeah, we'll keep going until we're done with the 18 single crochets. Okay, so it should look something like this by now. And before you complete your last stitch, you need to remove the stitch marker if you did place it like I did before. So remember, this was the last stitch of the previous round, so this should also be the last stitch of the current round you're on. So just remove that, and then you can complete your last stitch. Okay. So some people, although some put the stitch marker into the last stitch of the round, some put it in the first stitch of the round. So we can also do that, just as an example to show you. So this will be the next stitch that you go into. Okay, and we're going to be doing 18 single crochets for the next 5 rounds. So this will be the first. And then you can put your stitch marker into the first single crochet of the round, or you can continue using the yarn tail, so whichever you feel is easier for you. Personally, I prefer to use the yarn tail because it's softer, so I don't feel like the stitch marker every time I'm crocheting. So yeah, just a personal preference, but just to demonstrate, I'll do it in the first stitch of the round for this round. So this would be round 5. Yeah. So we're going to put 1 single crochet into each stitch for a total of 18 stitches, a total of 5 rounds. So I'll meet you at the end of the 5 rounds. So this is what it should look like at the end of round 9. As you can see, I went back to using my yarn tail, and how you can count upwards is you just look at this. This is the first stitch, right? So you just follow the line, and this would be the first stitch, making this the last stitch and where you stop. Alright, so if you don't want to keep taking in and out the stitch marker, that's something that you can do. Okay, so actually at this point we are supposed to be changing to the white yarn, but we want to add the eyes first. So this part where the color change is made is the back, so you want to face it forward like so, and now is where you add your 6mm safety eyes. It doesn't have to be the same size as mine, but you know, whatever is available or whatever you prefer. You'll be placing them in between the last 2 stitches, the last 2 rounds that you just did, and it'll be across about 4 stitches. So if you place one here, for example, there, you want to count 4 stitches away. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can place the other eye right here. Okay, so before I fasten them, I normally sew on the mouth first in case I need to do any readjustments, as you might have to sometimes. So this is 4-ply black milk cotton yarn, and what I do is I tease it into half so that the mouth doesn't look too thick, so it becomes 2-ply. So with this 2-ply yarn, you thread it through your yarn needle, and you can begin to sew the mouth onto round 8 over here, perhaps here and here. is where we will go. So from the back, and then into the front, so you can see it is about the length of one stitch. And before we pull it all the way, let's determine where the middle is first. So somewhere around here is where you want to come out of. So from the back, yeah, somewhere around here. So this is where you will do wrap around the mouth like so to create a smiley face, and you're gonna go back into where you came out of from just now. And once you're happy with it, you can tie a knot from the back. So you can just do a double knot, or if you want to be really careful, you can just do 3 knots. If you feel that the mouth is placed right in between the eyes where you want them to be, you can go ahead and fasten them. If not, you can always readjust them since you have not secured them. That's one eye. So at this point, I would not add the polyfill yet. I will do it after I've done another 2 rounds with the fluffy white chenille yarn. Now we'll begin with round 10. So you can pull out that last loop that you just did and place your hook into these 2 yellow loops. And to complete this final stitch, we will take the white fluffy chenille yarn. Okay, you can create a slip knot if you like, or if you are fine without, you can follow me. Okay, so complete that final stitch. You might want to pull on the yellow yarn if it comes a bit loose. Okay, get that short tail out of the way before you continue. So you will just do 18 single crochets in this round, which means that it's just 1 single crochet in each stitch. And you will do the same for the next round. So for the next 2 rounds, you'll be doing 18 single crochets. After you've done a couple of stitches, you can just remove the hook and cut off this yellow yarn. And you can tie these 2 ends together. So you can create a double or a triple knot, making sure that it's tight. And just stuff it into the bear mark. Alright, I'll see you at the end of round 11. This is the end of round 11, and if you want to use your stitch marker at this point, you can, so that it's easier for you to tell where the end of the round is, especially because you're using fluffy yarn, so it's not as easy to see the stitches. You can add some of your polyfill. I wouldn't recommend filling it to the top, because if you do, when you're crocheting, you might pull out some of the polyfill and then it will start getting in between the stitches, which is not what you want. So you can fill probably about maybe half the mark first before you begin your decrease. So maybe until where the yellow yarn stops. And when you're done, you can place your hook back into the loop and you can begin your decrease round. So for this round, which is round 12, you'll be doing a single crochet decrease times 6. So single crochet and decrease, and you will repeat this pattern 5 more times until the end of the round. Before you complete your last decrease, you can remove that stitch marker and your decrease, and you can place your stitch marker back in. For round 13, we'll be doing 6 decreases. So into the next stitch, decrease, and then we'll do this 5 more times. Going into your last decrease, remove your stitch marker and you do your decrease. Okay, so before you continue to stuff it, you can place a stitch marker back in if you would like, or if you're confident that you know where to weave in later on, you don't have to. Okay, now we're going to stuff it just a bit more, and you can either use the back of your hook or the back of your yarn needle, whichever you prefer or whichever seems easier for you. And when you're happy with it, you can go ahead and cut the yarn tail, so you leave about maybe 15 to 20 cm. You can pull the yarn tail through, and you grab that yarn tail, place it through your needle, and you can start weaving in. So we're going to weave into the front loops only if you are able to see them, or you can just weave in to close the hole. So there should be 6, so that's 1, 2, 5, and 6. Pull it to tighten, and then you can stuff the rest of the yarn in. So you can either use the back of your needle to stuff the yarn in, or if you rather not go through the hassle, you can just cut it off and use it as stuffing for other amigurumi projects. Okay, and there's the body for your beer mug. Now we'll move on to the hands and the handle. For the arms, we'll be doing a chain 3 followed by 2 slip stitches, and we'll start with a slip knot. So slip knot, tighten it but not too tight, and then we do a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do 2 slip stitches starting from the second chain from the hook. So this is slip stitch 1 and slip stitch 2, and then we do a chain 1 again just to fasten off. So you can leave about the same length as your tail, which is maybe about 8 cm, 7 to 8 cm, enough to tie a knot. Or if you prefer to sew, then you can leave a much longer tail, like 15 to 20 cm. So pull the yarn through and tighten it, and these tails will be used to tie a knot onto your beer mug later on. After you've done 2 of your arms, you can just place them aside, and we'll do the handle before we attach all of them at once. So for your handle, you'll need to chain 8 and slip stitch 7, starting with a slip knot. So same thing, you want to leave a little bit of tail so that you can tie a knot later on. Okay, chain 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and then you want to, from the second chain from the hook, do 7 slip stitches. Six and 7. To complete it, you can do a chain 1 and fasten off by cutting the yarn and pulling through the yarn tail, and you can tighten it at the end. And here's your handle. Now you can place your card first so that it's more accurate as to where you want to sew your hands on. So this is what I normally do. I use the glue gun and just put a little bit in the middle over here, and then you just place your card right below the mouth, where you can still see just a bit of the bottom as well. Okay, alright, now you grab your arms. So you wanna see which side you like more, and then you want that to be the front. So once you've determined that, then you can start. So you can put a little bit of glue at the side, and then you paste the arms on, for example here, or you can just estimate where it might be and you sew the arms on first. So since my glue is kind of far away, I'll just do this first. So you find where you want to tie up the knots, and then you just place your needle through first and come out in a stitch that is close by, and then you place that yarn tail through your needle. So that's the first one, and the second one will be directly under by 1 stitch and coming out of the same hole, so that you can tie your knot and stuff it in later. Okay, so you just want to make sure that it can reach. Yep. And when you're done with it, you can tie a double or triple knot. So that's 1 and 2. Alright, so you can again through the same hole, you can thread your yarn tails in. Okay, and with the back of the needle, you can just stuff in the rest of the yarn. And this is on round 6. So I guess depending on your tension and the placement of card, it might be different. But as for me, I placed my arms on round 6. So you do the same with the other arm, double knot. You can stuff in the ends. So for your handle, what I did was I tied the knot somewhere around here at the second last row over here, and I glued the top of the handle onto the row, around the row where the eyes are. So just estimate where the side is, and then you can go same thing. You exit about 1 stitch away. If you find it easier to use your hook to do this, you can go ahead. I normally just use the needle. Get that other yarn tail. Pull to tighten, and then you can tie your double knot. 1 and 2. And you weave in the ends. Alright, so now that all that's left is to glue the arms to the sign and also the top of the handle to the row in between the 2 rows where the eyes are as well. Alright, thanks for watching. If you created one from this tutorial, you can take a photo and put them in the comments and I can see all your lovely creations. Happy Father's Day to all fathers out there. Bye!